Welcome back to Harbour Unboxed. Today I'm going to build a PC that's probably quite similar to your own if you built it last year, that is. And that's because today's PC will be based on our Amazon affiliate data. For those of you who missed it, Tim went over all of our affiliate data for 2019. He worked out what the most popular CPU and GPU purchases were, along with a few other items such as motherboards, memory, and monitors. Towards the end of that video, Tim listed the most popular PC build of 2019, and it included the AMD Ryzen 5 2600, an MSI B450 motherboard, an MSI GeForce RTX 2060 graphics card, 16GB of Corsair DDR4 3200 memory, and an LG 1440p 144Hz monitor. So I thought it might be interesting to build that PC and see how well it works, targeting 1440p gaming. So I've gone and acquired all the necessary parts, and as I throw them together, I'll talk about why they were, and perhaps still are, good value choices before testing them out in a few games and then wrapping this thing up. So let's start with the CPU. 73.5% of all CPU purchases using our referral links were AMD branded products. The most popular of which was the Ryzen 5 2600, coming in at 15.8%, well ahead of the next most popular items in the Core i9 9900K, Ryzen 5 3600 and 2600X. And the reason for this is quite simple. The Ryzen 5 2600 was a bargain throughout most of 2019. Shortly after the release of the 3rd gen Ryzen series, pricing dropped from about $200 to just $150, and then eventually bottomed out at around $120 when not on sale. It really was hard to justify buying the newer and faster Ryzen 5 3600 for an almost 70% price premium. It's really not that much better. In fact, until the Ryzen 5 1600AF showed up, there was simply no better choice. But we'll talk more about the 1600AF towards the end of the video. For now, let's move on to the motherboard. Without question, the most popular motherboard of 2019 was MSI's B450 Tomahawk, and for good reason. It's the best value, best quality B450 board, well, it and the Pro Carbon. Unfortunately, MSI did botch their X570 lineup with horrible VRM performance on their X570-A Pro, Gaming Plus, Gaming Edge, and in particular, the Gaming Pro Carbon. In fact, these boards were so bad that MSI had to slash pricing, and now the X570-A Pro can be had for just $140, but I wouldn't pay any more than about $100. A much better option is the B450 Tomahawk Max, and it would seem many of you agree. It's not going to rival the VRM performance of, say, the Asus Tough Gaming X570 Plus, but at $115 US, it really doesn't have to. For the money, it's just a great quality board, and there's simply nothing that offers as much value. Then we have the graphics card, and 58% of all graphics cards sold using our affiliate links featured an NVIDIA GPU. However, GPU sales in the $300 to $400 range were completely dominated by NVIDIA, with AMD scoring just 19.8% of the pie. The most popular GPU period was the RTX 2060, taking 12.5% of all GPU sales, followed by the 1660 Ti at 12%, and then the 5700 XT at 10.8%. This really doesn't surprise me too much. After all, in my initial review, I said, as it stands, the RTX 2060 is without question the best value mid-range graphics card that you can get your hands on. And it remained a solid purchase for most of 2019, and then more recently has made a comeback with the release of the 5600 XT. Despite the 6GB VRAM buffer, the 2060 is still a very capable 1440p gamer, and still one of the best options for around $300. Of the NVIDIA graphics cards sold in 2019 using our affiliate links, MSI took the biggest share at 30.4%, followed by Gigabyte in second place with 26.5%. So we've gone with the MSI RTX 2060 model, and on hand we already have the Gaming Z version. Then we have the DDR4 memory. 16GB kits dominated the sales, accounting for 73%, followed by 32GB kits at 17.5%. As for memory speed, 3200 was the most popular, followed by 3000, and then the rest made up single-digit portions. The biggest shock for us, though, was the brand. Corsair took out top spot, accounting for a whopping 59.2% of all sales, and next best was G-Skill with 15.3%, and then Crucial at just 8.4%. A lot of the Corsair memory sold was the Vengeance LPX stuff, so I'll be using a 16GB kit that we had on hand already. It's DDR4 3200 CL16. Now, Tim didn't cover cases, power supplies and storage, but we went back and checked the data, and for power supplies, the Corsair RMX series was very popular, particularly the 850 watt model, but for this build we recommend a lower capacity model such as the 550 watt version, as that will still deliver ample power, but on hand we do have the 850 watt model, so we'll be using that for this particular build. As for cases, there was a very wide range of varying models purchased through our affiliate links, but one of the more popular models was the Cooler Master H500, which is a bit of a pricey model at around $120 US. But we've grabbed it for this build, and we'll talk more about that soon after we check out the benchmarks. Then finally, we need some storage, and again, like the power supply and case, we didn't focus on storage data as we didn't review a single storage device in 2019. That's just not what we specialize in here at Harbour Unboxed. Anyway, like cases, there are plenty of good options. I suggest you do your own research here, but good value choices include the Crucial MX500, Samsung 850 EVO, 950 EVO Plus, ADATA, XPG SX7000 or SX8200. And, well, the list just does go on. Since I have the Team Group Cardia Zero Z440 1TB PCIe 4.0 SSD on hand, I'll be using that. It's not really an ideal solution for this build, bit overkill since it will be limited to PCIe 3.0 operation, but it'll work quite well and it won't impact the results in any way. So let's just see how this CPU and GPU combo work in a few games. First up, here's a quick look at performance in Call of Duty Modern Warfare single-player campaign at 1440p with the quality settings maxed out, with the exception of ray tracing, which isn't enabled at all. Frame rates were generally well above 60 FPS, typically hovering around 80 FPS, so very impressive performance for this modest gaming system, and with a few tweaks you'll be able to push up over 100 FPS without a problem. Moving on, we have Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and again, the visual quality settings were maxed out at 1440p, with the exception of ray tracing. This game does use ray trace shadows, but they were disabled. Now, for testing, I'm using a fairly demanding section of the game, and when not recording with Shadow Play, we were pretty much sitting on 60 FPS, but with Shadow Play enabled to record this footage, we did drop a few frames. Still, overall, a very smooth experience, and the game did look great. Resident Evil 3 was also tested at 1440p with all the eye candy cranked right up, and here we're looking at over 60 FPS for the most part. Again, the game played very smoothly, and for this type of title, 60 FPS is more than enough. Of course, you can lower certain settings if you'd like to increase the frame rates further. Then we have Metro Exodus, another visually impressive title that had no trouble running on this system at 1440p using the maximum quality preset. As I've said already, you can of course tune the visual settings for better performance without a really noticeable impact to the visual quality, but with 70 FPS or better for the most part, most of you probably won't bother. Here's Fortnite using the low quality preset at 1440p, so we're going for a sort of competitive type setting here, and frame rate stayed above 100 FPS at all times. For better performance, you would need to overclock the Ryzen 5 2600 and possibly tune the memory timings, but again, for most of you, between 100 to 120 FPS that'll likely suffice. Then last up we have F1 2019, and the footage you're looking at here is from the built-in benchmark, which has been looped over and over again for more than an hour. In a 21-degree room, the GPU peaked at just 66 degrees, and in this title the Ryzen 5 2600 reached just 51 degrees, though it wasn't that heavily utilised, only hitting around 40%. As for in-game performance, frame rates remained above 100 FPS at 1440p, using the maximum quality preset, so again, very nice, very smooth experience. So in terms of gaming performance, the Ryzen 5 2600 and GeForce RTX 2060, they performed exactly as expected. And that means for those of you wanting to enjoy modern AAA titles at 1440p, this configuration will enable 60 plus frame rates. And then with some tweaking, it will be suitable for high refresh rate gaming. No doubt, making this setup a popular option amongst our viewers is the upgradability. Down the track, you could, for example, slot in a second-hand Ryzen 9 3950X, and receive a massive boost in CPU performance. Alternatively, you could also grab an upcoming Zen 3 based model for what should be even better performance. Then when it comes to the other components such as the memory, storage and graphics card, those are all easily expandable or upgradable depending on what you want to do there in the future. And on that note, I have to say the Cooler Master H500 is a very nice case. Very flexible, offers plenty of room for expansion as I said, and just design-wise, quite a nice case. The back side of the case, there's plenty of room there for cable management, so it's not only very neat once you've finished, but it's also very easy to work with. Everything on the opposite side of the case is pretty standard, so that works well. But those two 120mm fans in the front, they work exceptionally well behind that mesh panel. Loads of airflow, and they're very, very quiet. When I was gaming, I could barely tell the system was on. It's just that quiet. Of course, the flashy RGB lighting, that's a dead giveaway that the system is actually up and running. And if you don't like that sort of thing, then you can simply turn them off or just not hook them up at all. There was one issue that I had with my particular sample, and that was to do with the protective plastic on the glass side panel here. Normally it's quite a nice, satisfying experience peeling that back, but at this time it was long and rather painful. Very frustrating process, and I'm still not quite complete. For whatever reason, the bottom, there's a bit of a steel sort of strip here at the bottom that helps the panel clip in. For whatever reason, that was installed after the film, so it's now permanently fixed the bottom part of the film in place against the glass. It's just not possible to peel it off, so I sort of had to tear it back. You can probably still see it. It looks a bit ugly. Not really sure how I'll go about removing that. Perhaps with a heat gun or something I can get it out that way. But yeah, very annoying. Definitely spoils the overall sort of look of the case, and I'm hoping this is just a manufacturing defect with my one particular sample. I haven't seen anyone else complaining about this, so perhaps it was just an error. That issue aside though, overall a very neat system and a great choice for those building in mid to late 2019, and really still a great choice for anyone building now. This setup really could have been built for under $1,000 US back in July of 2019, and with the only changes from the rig you see here being a cheaper storage device such as the Crucial MX 500GB for example, and then Corsair's RM550X rather than the 850 watt model that I used. For those of you building today, the only changes I'd make would be to swap out the Ryzen 5 2600 for the cheaper and virtually identical Ryzen 5 1600 AF. Just make sure you are getting the AF version. And then I'd replace the RTX 2060 with the slightly cheaper and slightly faster Radeon RX 5600 XT. A model such as the Sapphire Pulse would work quite well, for example. Those changes, they'll save you around $75 US, so a decent chunk of change, but overall performance will be very much the same. And that is going to do it for this one. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of the final product, and if you built a very similar PC either last year or sometime this year, then yeah, also let me know about that. Let me know how it's going, what you think, if there's anything you'd change, what case you went with, all that sort of stuff. Be very interested to hear from you guys. As always, like, subscribe, do the YouTube stuff. We also have our Patreon account where you can get access to our private Discord server, monthly live streams, which will be coming up later this month. We also do a Patreon Q&A, some behind the scenes stuff. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Check that out if you're interested. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'm your host, Steve, and I'll see you again next time.